My life was crumbling.
Things are not perfect.
You just have to go really hard.
That's a foxhole moment, I guess.
So we want to dive deep into the trenches.
I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be like this.
Everything's sacrificed when you're trying to build a business.
Yeah, I want that.
We'll see how deep in the foxhole we get.
Welcome back to another episode of In the Foxhole. I'm your host, JC Chanowsky.
And I'm Angela Schroeder.
Angela, welcome back.
It's good to be back.
I know, it's back to be back in the States and done a lot of traveling. And speaking of traveling, I'm excited to have Jill on with us today because Jill is kind of like the instigator, the motivator, the inspiration for all our travel hacks, if you will, and how we level up on our travel. So Jill was grateful enough to teach me a couple of years ago that one, Delta is the premier airline to be flying with and how to leverage points with traveling. But let's not talk too much about travel. Let's talk about Jill. Jill, welcome.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Delta because this is actually a Delta plane window behind me right now. Believe that or not.
No way.
Yeah. I do. Once a year, I do this event where I gather a lot of frequent flyers and we pull a Boeing 757 and we raise money for the American Cancer Society. And as team captain, they gifted me this plane window that's engraved. So kind of neat.
That's exciting.
That is.
All right, Jill. Well, we got a quick intro about flying and hacking travel, but why don't you tell the viewers a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Well, I met JC. I think this context is important when I was kicking his butt riding bikes around Topsail Island, and then he actually quickly surpassed me, which is really a dang shame. But then I got to meet the amazing Angela once she came into his life a little over a year ago, and I think what's really interesting is when you find like-minded people in terms of lifestyle, things that you want to do, the drives that you hope to achieve, all of that, it makes conversation easy. And especially when it's focused around entrepreneurship and building businesses, because if you are in that category, and most likely you are in some way, shape, or form, if you're watching the show, you know that you have a certain risk tolerance and a certain drive that a lot of people around you don't have. And that's not to say that they're bad people. It's just a different type of mentality. So it's awesome to get to connect with people, especially when we're local like we all are.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was probably a couple evolutions of you kicking my ass on the bike. But it was fun. It was always a challenge. We had some good taco rides but had really good conversations about entrepreneurship, learning more about what you do, your book writings and your success working with your different companies. But I want to talk a little bit more about, the companies that you're working with right now, what you're focused on.
Yeah, so I have two businesses that I focus in. One is just mine, as in, I'm the CEO, founder, president, all that jazz. And that is called The Dynamic Communicator. It's been around for about 10 years. And the umbrella of that is communication strategy. But really, it's all about applying what is a solid skeleton of communication fundamentals, human behavior, psychology, decision-making, neuroscience, all of that, and then being able to flex that skeleton's muscles differently for every client, for every industry, for every situation. And I do that through keynote speaking, training, writing, consulting, etc. And that led me through some of that work to actually become a business partner in my latest venture, which is an artificial intelligence and synthetic media startup called Render, where we are digital likeness experts. We basically clone you in the digital realm. And my role as a partner in that business and chief experience officer is to make sure that when we have customers getting cloned, that it's not just an AI parlor trick. It's not just a cool factor, although don't get me wrong, it's cool as heck, but it's also something that is communicatively sound. It is strategic, it's science backed, and people are getting real results. So that is the world I occupy.
It's a busy life, and I had an opportunity to fly up to New York to do my own clone, my own avatar, if you will.
I can't wait to do mine.
And it's such a fun experience, but it's crazy how much has evolved over the years, and probably evolved so much since I've been up there in New York. So I'm excited to get the new version of that and work with Angela, get hers going. But it's just a great opportunity for somebody to be able to want to communicate with their clients, but also put out a lot of content. Without having to be in front of the camera or just do re-records and errors and all that stuff. So it's a great fluid system that you guys have, an incredible product.
No, thank you. I mean, JC, not all of us are as privileged to wake up looking like you do. Some of us, take a little bit of work. So it's nice to have the clone to send those quick messages when you need it. But the reality of it is, to me, is now we have a way for your social presence to be integrated throughout your customers' experience with your company. And so I want you to think of this, like you've been to a conference before, or an event, or a mastermind, or on a vacation, and you met someone. You then follow that someone on social media. And even though you don't see them maybe for a whole other 12 months, those touch points, those social impressions that you get from that person over the year form a stronger relationship. So then when you pick back up with them, you start, instead of at level 1, now you're at level 2. Instead of having to, work level 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, you just level up faster. And that's the same with customers. I mean, I think, JC, I know your Christmas lighting business, right? I mean, I know that's a generic term for many things that you do, but with that, you touch base with people typically seasonally, right? And I know your busy season is starting up, so, it's starting to come in. But during the year, you still have to interact with your customers. You still have to start getting that pipeline and start filling. And you can do that by having your digital likeness present throughout those touch points throughout the year. When you're sending out newsletters, when you're sending out promotions, when you're sending out, hey, look, our company just did this cool thing for charity. Make sure you go visit this place, whatever it is. And you can do that now in an automated way without having to put a whole lot of time or resource behind it.
I love what it does for those touch points, like you said, for clients especially. Just being able to nurture that relationship and duplicate yourself, literally, to nurture those relationships along the way. You said, I mean, there's so much psychology in sprinkling that in, and how, even though it's a likeness of you, it makes your clients feel so much more important.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's different. I mean, right, we all get these generic, hello, insert first name. Name of business wants you to know about this upcoming sale. Yay! But what if now you have, hi, Jill. Thank you so much for letting us install your Christmas lights last year. I want to let you know we're having a former customer special, XYZ. And the whole time, a picture of their house is behind you. Right now, that is personalization, it's customization. And especially if you have a team set up, VAs, I know you guys do, any type of assistant infrastructure, it is literally about, I don't know, it would take you maybe 60 seconds to get that video created, tops, and it generates within minutes. So there's really no excuse for businesses of any size at this point not to have that personalized touch point. And as generative AI continues to advance, that is going to not only be the expectation, it's going to be the rule, and companies who aren't on board with that are going to lose that traction. And like, I think of your business, JC, and I think of like something that I'm doing for my business right now. And Angela, I know this could apply to you in many ways too. And then obviously both of you and what you're doing together is, there's clients that you've had that, let's be honest, we probably haven't touched base with a year or two, right? They were in the past. It was part of a life at some point in time, but yet what you're doing now could really help them. But creating one-on-one videos is going to take a ton of time for those 50 to 100 people. Instead, you make one script, you get your client list together, you get your variable fields, and then just like a mail merge, you're producing those. And in minutes, you have 50 to 100 personalized videos to re-engage with people and reinforce that presence that you had in their life.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
When am I getting mine? Okay, we are talking right after this. This is making me, all the conversation. Man, I needed this yesterday. Oh.
No, but this is, I love it though, because everything with technology, like it's only as good. It's a tool, and it actually can make us more human if we use it well. And I think that's the coolest freaking thing.
I need to use mine more now. You've motivated me. I've had it for too long. I didn't use it enough, and that's it. I'm getting my V8 to start working tomorrow, and I'm cranking out some cool.
And I'm getting mine.
Yes. Well, and actually, we can include this as a link, maybe perhaps in the show notes or something afterwards. but everyone can see how far this has advanced because just last month we were testing and we recently just publicly released a brand new capability where I can now take a form from your website. So let's say someone's interested in getting a quote for installation, for example. You can have, their name, approximate size of their house, the theme they like, whatever it may be, right, of what you want to do. And then that form feeds into a database that can then go to your CRM, your customer relationship management software, and simultaneously go to Render, where your avatar is hosted. And within 5 to 10 minutes, that person who just clicked submit on a form gets a personalized video of the CEO of the company, welcoming them and telling them in their own words what they get. So that is just released. It is now out of beta. We are in production with it. And so if you guys want to see this in action, there's a link and you can fill out my form to get a little Jill avatar back to you.
I love it. I want it.
Okay.
I want it.
Okay, now we're obsessed. We're going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Hopefully the two of us can concentrate for the rest of this.
Now I got AI on my head the whole
Yeah, I
time.
was like, because now we just really want to get with you on this. But
No. But it's fun. But what am I supposed to talk to?
Oh, I have so enjoyed getting to know you too, Jill, and can't wait for more conversations. And you described it so well when you get to, be in relationships with people. And I don't usually include that have the same risk tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
You're like-minded people. But that's so true. When you have people that are, so thank you for enlightening me on that. It is a different level of conversation with entrepreneurs that's not just, the like-minded and motivated and I'm doing my own thing and all the things that we typically think of, but that risk tolerance affects how you live your whole life. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Before we dive into some foxhole moments with you, let's celebrate a win that you might be experiencing either in your personal life or in business.
Oh, man. I have a brand new podcast that is launching later this month. I signed with a new agency and am getting out there in a much bigger way in the AI and communication space. So you can look for Humanize Automation to be released at the end of September. And it's really talking about this, all things that you can do with technology to make your business more human.
That is cool. Congrats.
Yes, congrats.
Finally getting on the podcast bandwagon,
And congrats on, just making the decision, like you said, to get out there, to sign and what that means. When you do a podcast, I know you're all in. That means you have to up your presence and vulnerability on social media and everything. To get yourself out there to really get that message across and educate people. But it's such a valuable message right now.
And what I think it's really cool is when you do a podcast, and I had about 6 months ago, or 6 months worth of radio show, 10 years ago in my very first iteration of my business. And what I learned from that is that I actually got stronger in my business by having to incorporate perspectives of others on the fly. Even though my thing was about communication, I learned so much about different perspectives of communication from the guests that I had on the show, because we get so ensconced in our own worlds and our own knowledge base that, just like you said, I've never thought of it in terms of risk tolerance, even though you've been living it. You just haven't thought of it that way. So you get to have these nuances come out when you're hosting a show. And I think I look forward to that the most.
Well, good luck to that. We can't wait to see the first episode come out.
Yes.
But in the meantime, Doctor, we talked about risk and owning a business and running a business. There's a lot of risk to get the reward. And it's not all unicorns and sunshines and rainbows. And we have moments where, we're going through business where we just want to quit, burn it down, start over, whatever it is. Can you talk about some moments during your, entrepreneur journey where you're just this is not for me, or this is the worst thing that could happen to my business right now? How did you come out of that, and how are you able to apply it to your journey now to avoid those mistakes?
I remember sitting on the floor, and let me not lie, sitting is a euphemism for curled up in the fetal position crying, on this old parquet hardwood floor in a 1970s apartment in New York City. with my whole 500 square feet that I was paying thousands on thousands of dollars for a month to rent, having moved there knowing nobody. And it was like, I think it was May 2015 when I was, broke. I was to the point that in order to pay rent in that city and be there, I had to sell my racing bike. And yes, I'm a huge cyclist. Like JC and I never would have even met if it weren't for cycling. And I sold my bike to pay rent one month. And then the next month, to supplement stuff that came in, I, anything that I could pawn off in my closet that would get more than like 25, 50 bucks, I just kept doing it so I could afford to go to networking events and pay the fees to go to different places that I needed to go. And I remember just sobbing my eyes out on the floor thinking, I know I can make it, but why am I not making it? Like, I'm doing the things. Why am I not making it? I know I'm not stupid. And I kid you not, 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Entrepreneurial magazine saying, we're launching a new video network on YouTube and we'd like to syndicate your content. Nice. Content that, mind you, was created 3 years prior. 3 years prior. And so what people don't always know in business is we all have those moments. And there's no overnight success story. That's a total fallacy. And it's not like, boom, she clicked a button and magically the genie appeared and this thing called her. No, I put those videos out in 2012. They didn't get the traction I thought they would. They had about 30,000 views by the end of the first year. And I thought, no, that's some BS. They're better than this. So then I learned how to understand the algorithm in YouTube at that time. Now it's a little different, and changed everything and spent a year reworking on everything to watch it slowly grow up in the hundreds of thousands and then cross 500,000 and then eventually 1 million. And it happened, but I stuck with it. And so what I find that so many entrepreneurs do, and I am guilty of doing this myself as well in the past, is we think we have this great idea and we go and execute on it. But when in 3 months, 6 months, a year, it doesn't pay off, if you don't have that solid belief in what you're doing is good, that's when you let it go and you don't put out that consistent effort time after time. And it's that consistency and that unyielding belief in you have the capability to bring value to someone else. That's what kept me going out of that fetal position. And even though I didn't ride my bike or a bike for almost a decade until I moved to North Carolina, I will always think fondly of that bike.
Bathroom floor. Fetal position on the bathroom floor moments. I used to talk about that more. And then I'm like, is it only me? Or
no.
Like, is that not other? I'm like, if you have not had multiple bathroom curled up in a ball of bathroom moments as an entrepreneur, then you're not doing it big enough or
no.
something. Because there are that. You're like, I know what I'm doing is right. I know there will be, but I can barely I can't see the light. You're at a moment of like, I know I believe in this, but I can't see the light. And then that is so true what you said of, I think especially more and more today, when there's so many opportunities with the internet, that entrepreneurs get distracted by the newest shiny object or way to do something. And because of social media, they see the way somebody else is doing it and don't stick to it. And if you don't stay sticky, nothing will stick. And it won't ever work. Like you said, you have to believe in your path and go on what you've built and know that you might not see the fruition of that work for years. You were patient for years.
Yeah. And we see this stuff, and I think social media gives us a very false reality in many situations because, it is, I don't know how many millions and millions of videos are posted today. I don't know that statistic right off my head, but we're talking in a month, there's billions of pieces of content posted, billions. And you know what happens? People think that theirs is going to be the one that can go viral. And I'm not trying to dissuade you from believing in yourself, but listen, not all of us are the Hawk-Tua girl, right? Right? Not all of us are, the demure and mindful, right? All these trends that pick up that honestly, unless it has something so kitschy and catchy behind it, or there's a face to go with it or a personality to go with it and an infrastructure to support it, already in place, you're not going to be able to capitalize on that on the way that you should. And I think people focus so much on these quick hits and quick wins instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to do the crap work of building a really solid foundation and knowing my stuff. Period. End of story. Know your stuff, whatever industry that is.
Yeah, I think the two words that I caught, or two things I caught from that, you said believe. You believed in yourself, believed in your product, that no matter what, it needs to be heard, needs to be seen, and sacrifice. I mean, you sacrificed the one thing that brought you joy during the time, was riding your bike to see another day. And most people would have said, no, I'm done. Like, on to the next thing. I'm just not, this isn't what I need to be doing. I'll go find something else. But you said, I'm going to sacrifice everything to get one more event, to get one more phone call, to get one more view on that thing. And it paid off.
Yeah. And again, you have to be stubborn as hell to do this. Like, I think that's the other characteristic, right? And I'm sure, when you're two entrepreneurs in a relationship, that stubbornness has good sides and bad sides, guys. but it's that stubbornness that goes along with the unyielding belief, right? And it's also the reality that not every client is meant to be your client. Not every job is meant to be your job. And so don't let yourself get distracted by the shiny objects if it's not really moving your North Star along. I jokingly say this, and it's a disgusting it's kind of disgusting, but it's the analogy I use, and it makes the most sense to me because I need decision-making shortcuts, otherwise known as heuristics, if you want to be a nerd about it, in my life. And if I look at a decision, I have two hands. I have a business hand and I have a happy hand. No, I'm not speaking in euphemisms right now. I'm speaking in business hand and happy hand here. And what it is if both hands aren't up in the air, then I need to have one hand up so high that I can pretty much smell my armpit, and for me to even consider it, right? For me to even consider it. And I just realized I did that with the sleeveless shirt today. That was not the best optics for your show. Sorry, viewers. But it's true. Like, I either need to have something to be like so insanely good for my business that I can sacrifice my happiness temporarily, or it makes me so insanely happy that I'm willing to take a hit in my business. Otherwise, it needs to be both hands in the air. And that's kind of my decision-making model. It's really simple, but it works.
I like that.
That is a great analogy of, and you recognizing it. Like, yes, it's definitely both. So it's all in. I always like describe it as a hell yes. Unless it's a hell yes, it's a hell no. But realizing if you are making the sacrifice, like, it is so worth it in my business. I understand I'm going to be miserable for.
Yeah. I got a doctorate. I was miserable for a long time. This just finished up last year, and, it's a miserable process for a while, but I know in the end it's the right move. And so you surge forward.
Yeah. I didn't think about, look at all the things I'm learning about myself today. The stubbornness factor either of entrepreneurs. And it can't, because we do always think, and you need that quality to keep pressing forward. Like you said, you need the quality of believing that you are right, believing that what you're doing is right, to persevere and keep going. Like, if you don't believe that against everyone else telling you and offering their opinions, like, if you can't run with blinders on for a long time, or let anyone, get you off the path, then you won't succeed. But you're right, when you're working with other entrepreneurs or in a relationship, like, you got to figure out a way that the blinders are this way and you're not running like, I'm right.
Even though, of course, you are. We all know it, Angela.
Oh, yes. Wink, wink.
No, but I think
business partnerships too. I mean, you have two models of business that you're working in now. One, that you get to always be right, and one that you have to bridge that gap of right and taking others' opinions.
And it's so interesting when you have business partners that aren't also your partner, right? I know it's interesting in actually I don't know firsthand, but I assume it's very interesting in your guys' way too. But like, your business partner, I remember when we all agreed to be partners, there's three of us. It was like, this is more legally binding and more of a pain in the butt to unravel than a marriage, guys. So like, we really need to be in, we need to communicate. It's like, they both have, my business partners have spouses. I don't. And so, like, their spouses, even, we got in on the conversations and signed the contracts and everything too, because a partnership in every sense of the word when you're building that company together. And I think a lot of times partners don't take enough time to work on their relationship outside of the business, because you just get so ensconced in the day to day. And, I had a trip this July where I went up to visit one of my business partners to do some things. And we actually just sat down and had heart to hearts, like on a real human level, instead of just focusing on the business. And it changed the trajectory of our business. It changed our relationship and everything forever. But it's hard to take that time when you always see the next thing that needs to be done. And I can imagine that you guys find that challenge day to day.
Yeah, I mean, be able, like I said, align on a different level, emotional level, have different conversations about the future of not only the company, but yourself personally as you grow through that. So that's great to have those. And it's hard. It's hard for certain people to have those conversations and be real about it. So that's why most people fail, because they don't have that open conversation.
No, they view conflict as a bad thing. Conflict is one of the most natural things in the universe. Without conflict and without friction, nothing ever gets built or grown. Like, if you want to look at it from a geological standpoint, how do we have Hawaii? Well, there was a whole crap ton of friction that happened there when those volcanoes came up and the plates merged and all that type of stuff, right? But it's the same thing. You don't understand how you can innovate and grow further if you don't have differing opinions. Otherwise, everything's one's just homogenous blurb, and that's kind of boring.
Yeah.
All right. Can we talk a little bit more about AI? I mean, AI is kind of hot right now, just like the weather. But, I've got my avatar through you. And for our viewers that are listening or watching, who is this made for? Like, I mean, do you have to be in the Inc. 5000 to be able to afford this, to be able to incorporate into your business? Is it for, beginners? Is it for intermediate? Talk a little bit more about that process, because I think it's fascinating. The growth, the future of it, and how we can apply it to our business to increase those touch points and have a better client experience.
I think something that you said earlier, JC, was that, and Angela, you hit on it too. It's like shiny objects, right? We get distracted, we go and see those things and we take it on, and maybe we use it for a little bit because it's cool, and then we lag off of it, right? Because other priorities come up, other things get in the way, or we're not seeing the clear picture on how a tool can actually be profitable, because we try it out one way, and if it didn't work the way we thought, our tendency in our society right now of instant gratification is we give up on that tool.
Yeah.
And so that's a challenge that a lot of people with a lot of AI tools are facing right now, is they're like, oh yeah, ChatGPT can do this, or oh, it can't do that, and they just gave up on it, when in reality, all AI output is predicated on human input. Garbage in equals garbage out. You don't put the time to make the input right, your output's going to be crap. And so people are thinking these tools are like, silver bullets that, yay, we're going to get everything with just, one little click here. And that's not the case. The case is you put in the work up front, you set the automations, you get the tool, calibrated for your success, and then boom, you're off to the races and you can be hands off. But people don't want to they're like, oh, I'm paying a couple $1,000s for something, it should magically, do things for me. Like, man, if I could have something do things magically for me for a couple $1,000, like, I'd be throwing out money all day, but that's not how the world works.
Oh, you're right. We all want this magic fairy or magic bullet. Exactly. Well, I paid for it. Why isn't it spitting it out to me?
Yeah, right. Why is it not thinking for me? Why is it's AI? Can't it just be me? Really? Really? Do you really want that? Are you really comfortable with that? No, not at all. So it's about, deciding what you want to use it for and making that strategy consistent and taking the time, just like you do with any business process, to figure out the system that works for you. I mean, think of something every business has to do, even though most of us really dislike it, which is accounting and filing your P&L and doing your taxes. I'm guessing that anyone on here who's ever had to do those for business or for personal, you've probably evolved the way you do this over the years, because you've taken the time to fine tune what's going to be the most efficient. You've figured out what resources you need, and whether that is supplies or whether that is people that you're outsourcing to. And then once you outsource, if you do that, you get to know that CPA, you get to know their working style, and it takes time. But man, once you have that in place, it's plug and play. I imagine you all have to do the same thing with a lot of your VA clients, is people are like, wow, it doesn't magically work. No, because I cannot read your mind. And if you're not going to communicate explicitly what you want, then I can't execute on it. And so you have to take the time to get those instructions in place, to get those orders in place. And once you have that process, then it's smooth sailing. But with all of these generative AI tools, people are going in for the parlor trick and then thinking it's going to be the silver bullet, and it's not, because they're not putting just a simple foundational process in place.
Yeah, I love that. Especially with the VA thing, it's like they think they hire a VA, they know everything, and they're going to learn everything overnight. And I like telling them it's not the Matrix. We can't just plug them in and learn Kung Fu in 12 seconds. Like, we still have to teach them how to do things, and there's processes to get them to evolve. Just like somebody here in the United States, there's work that needs to get done in order for it to work.
No, it's true. And it's the same thing as personal preferences, right? Like, one of the things I do not let an assistant do for me, and I get chided on this all the time by one of the professional coaches I work with, is I will not let them touch my flights. I will not let anyone else touch my flights. And they're like, but we know you like aisle seats. I'm like, yes, but do you know which model of plane I like which row, and on which model of plane, if this seat's not available, I need this other seat. And they're like, well, we can learn that. I'm like, no, it's going to take too much time for me to teach you this. I want you focusing on something else, right? We all have our idiosyncrasies, to tie it back to my travel nerdum here. But it's again, I have a strategy for it I want that time to be used for, and I take some enjoyment out of booking my own travel. And so, you know what? It's one of the manual, little not brain intensive tasks that I actually enjoy in my day. Damn it, I'm keeping that.
Yes.
Exactly. And you know that it's you, and I talk about that all the time. What makes us unique, our unique genius, is unique to us. Like, what lights us up? You love travel. You love picking out the seat. So not only are you good at it, but it's not something that drains you, and it aligns with your goals. So keep it. What we keep and what we delegate, what we automate, doesn't need to look the same as somebody else. It can look different for each person based on what you do. Some people do like meeting with their accountant. I don't know who those people are.
I love mine. Mine just wrote me the other. She's like, you can schedule a meeting every time. I'm like, do I need to? It's like, no, I'm just letting you know I'm here. I'm like, I appreciate that, and that's why I pay.
So that's why I have to talk about it. So what are some of the coolest things? I mean, you've got this podcast coming up with AI and communication. Like, what are some of the cool, I'm going for the next shiny object, but what are some of the coolest things you're seeing right now, ways people are using it, things that are fascinating you as well?
Well, I'm going to start with the latter. The things that fascinate me the most and the things that make me happiest to look at are things that, ChatGPT came out fall 2022. And I just want to put this for context, not to pat myself on the back here, but it's just context. I got myself cloned and started playing with synthetic media in 2021. So over a year before AI became a topic of conversation. And we need to put it out there that AI has been around for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. Generative AI, which is what most people are talking about, which is ChatGPT, that is like a tiny subsection of the massive AI universe. And so when we're looking at this, what people aren't understanding, and what I love bringing to the surface for people, is if you have your data in order, and this is so essential, if you as a business have your data in order, meaning, your customer relationship management software, you have data on them. Just to go to Christmas lights, because I know that resonates. You have the name of the customer, their children's names. If they have children, the square footage approximately of the house that you're going to cover on the outside, their favorite colors, their favorite Christmas character is Frosty the Snowman. So you darn well better have that in your plan. That one of their birthdays is in July. So you could do a cool Christmas in July with a Frosty postcard. All these different things about your customers that are then also linked to your POS system, your point of sale system, or however you do your invoicing. So you have your ERP all in one place. You have your revenue and everything all in one place. Now you have data so that when statistically that someone who spent, and I do not know the numbers in your industry, JC, on the Christmas light thing, so I'm just going to throw stuff out. So just ease of math, go with me here. If you know that someone is a $2,000 a year customer or higher, that they are 50% more likely to upgrade on something, you can then easily, with that data, sort the data accordingly, and boom, put out a mass message utilizing AI that's personalized to everyone in that subcategory, in the same way that you could have a newsletter that you send out every month, and you have one generic piece of copy, but then you segment your audience based on families with young kids, because now you have this cool Santa thing that's coming out this year, or, you know, families that always do monochrome colored lights, and you have something that could fit that motif. Whatever it is, if you have your data in order in a way that's easy to access, you can segment that data and have personalization at scale so easy. And to me, at the heart of it all, I believe so much in making people feel seen. And I think that stems from my childhood of not being seen for me in so many ways. And my brain is able to help people be seen through personalized customer experiences, right? And if we can leverage technology to do this, and we can, that's where I'm passionate. That's where I geek out, whether it's an avatar or a text message, whatever it may be. It's, I can now relate to you not only as a human, not only as insert, hi, Angela, it was nice to see you at insert name of event. Now, that is nice and all, but once I actually have a relationship with you and can use that data to give you more valuable communication, you're being seen as a customer more, and that makes all of us feel more valued and more human.
That was a lot of great info, and like kind of like alarmingly scary that it's available to be doing it, but we're not taking advantage of it. Just that when you had the number, actually it was dead on. $2,000 is our average ticket. So good on that one. But just to be able to get that and know that, hey, all right, we're going to the season, and these ex-customers, you know, are the ones we really need to be going after right now. We're sending out these messages to try and increase their average ticket or upsell them on something. Like, wow, why are we not doing this right now? And we have access to it.
And when you said making them feel seen, I just did some content in an interview about Mary Kay Ash. I just stayed in Mary Kay where I drove a pink Cadillac, and she always said everyone has an invisible sign around their neck that says "Make me feel important," and that's what that does too. Those extra touches, you know. And when you use someone's name and you're vocalizing their name, that's what it's doing. It's making them feel seen. It's making them feel important, and you can tell your passion around that the tool is AI and that you're mastering. But what's really happening is the difference you're making in people's lives. You know, it's making a difference in a business life because you can touch those customer points, but in each of the customers, that's lighting up their lives a little bit, making them feel seen and making them feel important.
And I think, and that's what we have to do, because at the end of the day, what matters in life is connection. It matters, you know, relationships, love, whatever, you know, words you want to put behind it. And the more you can make people feel seen and, you know, have belief in them and, you know, recognize what they're saying and truly listen, the better conversations you can have. And people often tell me like, oh, Jill, you're very data driven. That's so sterile. I'm like, no. Data actually allows me to be way, way more human. Like, yes, I'm a total nerd. I will own it. But if I know and can look up a customer profile on you and then combine that with my industry knowledge on something to give you a better message, to give you a better offer. Yes, it can benefit me as a business, but if I know that your kid loves Santa or loves Frosty or, you know, whatever it is, going back to this Christmas analogy, because we've talked about this, or because one of the members of my team, when we have these iPads that we're communicating with, hears someone say something and hears, hey, their little kid named Brian really loves XYZ. Let's put this in their customer file. All of those notes and all of those things that we do as humans when we listen, we have to put that in data form. That is not putting people in a box. That's allowing us to serve them better. And it goes far beyond what's an anniversary, what's a birthday, and all those things. It's those little things that a person I met at an event 2 weeks ago is getting married this week. I'm not going to send them a follow-up email until 2 weeks after that because I found out where they were going on their honeymoon. So my first message is going to be about the marriage, about the honeymoon, and then reminding them of the conversation. It's those things that make those connections more important. And if you as a business are willing to pay attention to those details that on the surface don't drive bottom line, on the surface, we all know they do, what else are you going to pay attention to? And people feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is, systemizing that, the data collection and systemizing those personal connections. Like you're listening, but you've created a system so that it gets documented and it's where everything is. And that's the expectation to collect that information. Because otherwise, you can't have that personal experience with them. You can't make them feel important if you didn't have a system in place to document anything about them.
Yeah,
you have it, name, address, and I'm saying that in mocking because I need to improve our data collection as well. I'm making fun of myself. But unless you have systems in place that's the expectation, you don't have any personalized thing to follow up with them on.
And you may mean well, right? You may be like, oh, I'll remember this. And then the next time you talk to him, you're like, crap, I was supposed to remember something. And, JC's laughing. He's like, yeah, you know me. I forget things all the time. Yes. And that's why we need to systematize it, to Angela's word. But I think the other thing in this too is when you look at all the stuff, if you are a business owner that has employees underneath you and working with you, you have to empower your teams and teach them to listen for human connection points. When you can train your teams to listen for these human connection points, you're again able to get more data. Data, again, is not this dirty word, that you know about this customer. And then that means it's amazing. It's the same thing as if a customer writes in a review. I was at a lodge this last week and I took a self-retreat and my server, Jennifer, was amazing. And I asked, we talked on the first night and I said, hey, I'm going to be here for 3 nights. Are you going to be here the next 3 nights? She's like, absolutely. So when I walked down there, she remembered my name. She took care of me the next 2 nights I was there. And I wrote in a review private to the owner because I wanted to make sure that was, put out, that Jennifer was really great and made me as a solo traveler feel incredibly welcome. If that business is set up right, they're going to note that in my customer profile, and they're going to note that if I ever ping a reservation again, they're immediately going to see what Jennifer's schedule is if she's still working with them and try to match us up in some way, shape, or form and recognize that. Be like, hey, we know you loved Jennifer last time you were here. She's going to be working on 2 of the 3 nights of your stay. Do you want to make a reservation? That's power.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'll, another thing too, it takes by having that connection with the client, they don't feel like a number now. They feel valued. And Angela always says, create raving fans. Now they're going to talk about that and refer you and say, you can't believe the experience I have with this company. Not only did they deliver an impeccable product, but the follow-up afterwards, the touch points, all those little things, you need to call them.
Yeah. That's what I love. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we could talk for 2 more hours about this type of stuff, but I know that is not the format of your show, so I'm going to be quiet now.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going away from this episode with a really long to-do list of executables and things that I need to do. And you just, shone light on, people need educated people, and us need educated on AI. You're right. The shiny object right now is generative AI, and people are focused on all of the bots and the new searches and the tools that'll, do things for your podcast and just the thing that they think will work automatically instead of a broad reference to everything that it encompasses.
And I think if I can take just 1 minute to spell out a customer experience process here to get people thinking in this state of mind, is that okay?
Yes.
So if you look at your customer experience, kind of like your customer life cycle, it can be categorized into 4 main stages. You have discovery, where they're learning about you; engagement, where now you're having a 2-way dialogue; you have your execution or your deliverable, whatever that may be, whether it's a coaching session, hanging Christmas lights, whatever; and then you have continuation. you have to think of every touch point communicatively that you have in those 4 areas. And the one step I find that most businesses do not address, they get excited about a tool, they get excited about saving time, they get excited about automations, excited about data, of course I do, but what they're not consciously thinking through when they're making their goals in each of those areas is, how do I want my customer to feel? How do I want them to feel in the discovery phase? How do I want them to feel in the engagement phase? How do I want them to feel during the delivery stage? How do I want them to feel in the continuation stage? And I use this as an example, shaming myself because I used to do it too. But you have a system, for example, like Calendly. And let's say someone is going to, have a meeting with you or a consultation. Calendly has some great automations. They'll send out automated email reminders and all of this type of stuff. Super, super useful. I don't know about you, but nothing makes me feel more excited than getting an automated calendar reminder, right?
You have a meeting today.
Right. No, of course not. But we can, with like 60 to 120 seconds, go in each type of meeting we have and personalize. So at least at that initial automation back, it may not be personalized to that one person, but it's personalized to that type of event. You can link videos, you can embed videos, you can do things that get people more excited about meeting with you or give you more information ahead of time. So it's not me saying automations are bad, because automations are awesome, but automations are awesome when we can also bring in with them the feeling that we want our customer to have and get closer to that every step of the way.
Incredible.
I love that. I'm obsessed with that. One of my favorite books is Joey Coleman, Never Lose a Customer Again.
Joey's one of my friends. I actually,
yes, all these pages. I was like, how do I get person to you? So yeah, I absolutely love all this. And now like I said, I need my avatar. I have a video. When you book a discovery call, you do get a video, but it's not personalized.
No, but you at least have a video, right? Like you have something other than just a plain automated, your meeting with X is at Y on this day, right? But now we have something to step it up with. And that's where there's magic. And that's where any business, no matter what size right now, with not massive budgets, I'm talking, you buy a studio out for a day, hair, makeup, lights, you're spending $5,000. Now, if you want to add editing onto that, there's another $5,000. Like you have $10,000 invested into a full studio day with videos and output easily. Getting an avatar right now, and things change cost-wise, but you're looking at a couple thousand, I think it's like $2,500 up front, and you pay a couple $100s a month to get your video outputs. You can afford that if it is part of your business model and if it is not just a parlor trick. Yeah, that's the thing to remember.
And if that experience for that client can get another sale, you're going to get that ROI real fast by attracting more clients that way. So
100%. You get one extra client, it makes it all worth it.
Yes, absolutely. And you got a cool avatar like I do.
Right? I don't know. Angela's is going to be cooler, though. I have a feeling.
Well, make sure you book a good location. Like I did mine in New York City, so I don't know where else you're doing it right now, but let's travel someplace. I don't care if we go back to New York City.
There's one opening in Wilmington this fall, actually.
She said that, and I was like, no, we'll take New York City.
All right, Jill, anything you want to leave with our viewers or listeners?
No, I mean, thanks for listening. I am one of those entrepreneurs when I say, reach out if you have questions and engage. I genuinely mean it, so please do. I'm sure there's social links and all that stuff everywhere. And again, if you want to see what this automation and video forms and everything is like, I don't know how you guys will do it. That's your magic, but we'll put a link in the comments or in the show notes or however you make it happen. And you can click on that and fill out that form. And within 5 to 10 minutes, you'll get a video of a digital Dr. Jill coming to you.
I'm doing it right after this. All right, Jill, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Excited to be working with you. If you want to get some more information, they can find you Render, or where do you want it to go to?
Everywhere. Rendermedia.ai is for the AI company. The Dynamic Communicator is my company, or everywhere on social at Dynamic Jill.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. It was so much fun.
It was so much fun.
I love when we get sidetracked and start talking about what we really want to talk about.
Sorry, not sorry.
All right, everybody. That's another episode of In the Foxhole. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for another episode next week. Until then, take care.